Season 2 ended, and I still can't stop thinking about it. Not because it gave us closure, but because it didn't. Almost every character is standing at a crossroads, and Season 3 is either going to pay all of that off or leave us frustrated. And honestly, after everything this show has put us through, I'm nervous. Because the Pit has earned our trust, but it's also shown us that it's not afraid to make uncomfortable choices. So let's talk about what's coming, what we're excited about, and what genuinely has me worried. Let's start with Robbie because everything in this show, one way or another, comes back to him. Season 2 didn't just hint at his breaking point, it practically spelled it out. The bike trip, the way he talked about it, the distance in his eyes, none of that felt like a man who was just tired and needed a vacation. It felt like a man who wasn't sure he wanted to come back at all. And that is a heavy thing for a show to put on the table. What made it even harder to watch was that everyone around him could see it. Dana saw it. Abbott saw it. Langdon saw it. But seeing something and being able to fix it are two very different things, and nobody could really get through to him. That's the thing about people who are carrying that much. They become really good at deflecting, at keeping everyone just far enough away that nobody can actually reach them. But then that C-section happened. That baby who almost didn't make it. And then him going to see baby Jane Doe after. That moment when he held her, something shifted. You could feel it. It wasn't a cure, it wasn't a breakthrough in any clinical sense, but it was a reconnection. Like something in him remembered why any of this mattered in the first place. I'm not naive enough to think one moment fixed years of unprocessed trauma, but I do think it cracked something open. And Season 3 is confirmed to follow his healing process, which is exactly the direction this story needs to go. We're not going to get a magically healed Robbie, and honestly, we shouldn't. What we should get is a Robbie who is finally, slowly, reluctantly starting to face what he's been running from. Therapy feels like the natural next step, especially after Abbott opened up about his own experience. If Robbie actually takes that seriously, it won't just change him personally. It will change how he shows up at work, how he leads, how he treats the people around him. And that ripple effect is going to touch every single relationship he has in that hospital. Which brings us to Al-Hashimi, and this is where things get complicated. Her story is far from over. She's coming back, and there is no version of that return where things between her and Robbie are just fine. What happened between them wasn't a small disagreement. She trusted him with something deeply personal, something she was clearly scared to share, and instead of support, she got a threat. Robbie threatening to report her, even if his reasoning wasn't entirely wrong, landed like a betrayal. And that kind of wound doesn't heal just because a few months pass. With the confirmed 4-month time jump heading into Season 3, there's a chance things look calmer on the surface. But calm and resolved are not the same thing. I can easily see Al-Hashimi coming back more guarded than before. More careful about what she shares, more focused on proving herself, maybe even overcompensating just to make sure nobody has a reason to question her. And if Robbie slips back into his default harsh tone, because even a healing Robbie is still Robbie, she might not take it the same way she used to. What was once professional tension could turn personal very quickly. At the same time, Season 2 already hinted at her exploring treatment options, which means she might actually be in a better place physically by the time we catch up with her. And that version of Al-Hashimi, the one who has done the work and come back stronger, is genuinely someone I want to see more of. Now let's talk about Mohan, because I'm honestly not ready for what's coming there. Her arc in Season 2 was painful in a very specific way. Not dramatic, not explosive, just quietly exhausting. Robbie pushed her constantly, and while that has always been his style, there's a line between tough and cruel. Snapping at her right after a panic attack crossed that line. It crossed it clearly. So her stepping back from the main shift makes sense from a story perspective, but that doesn't mean it doesn't sting. Technically, she's still part of the hospital, but let's be real. If she's not on the shift we're watching, that still feels like a loss. She brought something different to that team, a kind of vulnerability that balanced out all the intensity around her. Her dynamic with Robbie, as frustrating as it was also one of the more interesting things the show had going. The showrunner has said this was always the plan, so there's no drama behind the scenes, but that almost makes it worse. It means the show is intentionally moving her out of focus, and I just hope they don't let her disappear entirely. On a more exciting note, Season 3 is apparently giving more space to the night shift, and specifically to Dr. Parker Ellis, and honestly, it's about time. There has been a lot of talk about a potential night shift spin-off, And the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. The day shift is relentless. It's loud, it's chaotic, it moves at a pace that barely lets you breathe. The night shift has always felt different. Quieter in some ways, but also stranger. Like the rules bend a little after midnight. If the show leans into that contrast and really develops the night shift world, it could add a whole new layer to everything we already love about the Pitt. Beyond the main characters, there are storylines sitting in the background that the show absolutely cannot afford to drop. Jesse's situation with Ice felt too real and too carefully built to just disappear. That storyline hit differently because it wasn't sensationalized. It was grounded and uncomfortable and honest, and those are exactly the kinds of stories that stick with you. I'd be genuinely surprised if Season 3 doesn't pick that back up. Then there's Javadi, who has been through enough that a shift towards psychiatry wouldn't feel random, it would feel earned. The experiences she's had, the things she's witnessed, it makes sense that she'd be drawn in that direction. But here's the thing. She's still too quick to judge, and that's a real problem for someone considering mental health work. That tension between her desire to help and her instinct to write people off could actually make for a fascinating arc if the show is willing to go there honestly. Santos is another character who deserves more than she's been given. Her storyline with Dr. Garcia quietly faded without resolution, and that felt like a missed opportunity. She's been steady and capable, and Season 3 feels like the right time to finally give her something to hold on to. Whether that's with Garcia or someone else entirely, she deserves a storyline that treats her as more than a supporting detail. And then there's Langdon and Mel, whose friendship has been one of the more genuinely warm things in the show. It's easy to watch, it feels real, and maybe that's exactly what it should stay. Not every relationship on a show like this needs to be complicated. Sometimes the most valuable thing is just two people who actually have each other's backs.